We're here with another review, and sadly, this one's not going to be too great. Hey guys, Bobby here with another episode of the GM Table, and like I said before the intro, we have another review, and spoilers, it's not going to be super positive. But before we get too deep into that, yes, moving forward, our plan is to do review roundups and bundles of review, and this is a lone review, because since it's negative, the only real way I could lump it together with other stuff I'm currently looking at to review would be to do a lump of negative reviews. And I hate doing negative reviews. I don't like saying I don't like a game or saying be wary of buying a game. But with some of the circumstances around how this game is being promoted and questions about the game, plus I keep seeing it being brought up in more and more OSR communities of how people tried it, I feel like I gotta put this review out. And this week we're talking about 5 Torches Deep. And if you enjoy this game, great. But there are some grievances I really need to bring up. And the first biggest one, the reason I'm doing this review is that it is advertising itself as using the mechanics of Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition to make an OSR game. Or as they put it in their own product description, using a 5e skeleton with OSR meat. And here's the thing. This isn't using D&D 5th edition. I'm sorry. There are a couple mechanics that are in this and D&D 5th, and I'm going to address those. But really, I 100% feel like they put that on there because D&D 5th edition stuff is selling, and that is sketchy, and I do not like that. I'm not saying the intent wasn't to start at D&D 5th and make an OSR, but that's not where you ended. Please don't advertise as something you're not, because I'm going to grade you much, much more harshly. What from Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition is in this game? The advantage disadvantage system. The roll 2d20, keep the highest for advantage, roll 2d20, keep the lowest for advantage. That is in here. That is not exclusive to D&D 5th edition anymore. Not at all. It was created in 5th edition. It was actually created in the tail ends of 4th edition and brought in by Wizards as, hey, try this mechanic because it can latch onto almost any D20 system. And because of that, and because of how good the actual design for that system is, it's showing up everywhere. The other is technically the classes do have a proficiency bonus that scales based on your character level. And the numbers between level 1 and level 9, because this game ends at level 9, are the same bonus numbers as D&D 5th edition classes proficiency bonus. But here's the thing. The DCs, what's considered a standard baseline DC, what's considered a hard DC, what's considered an easy DC, are all different in this game. Which means the impact of those bonuses changes. Yes, it is a D20, it is a 5% difference on the back end. But if you're looking at all you have to do is succeed by getting a number or higher, and there's not degrees of success. If the number to succeed is lower, the impact of those bonuses is bigger. And this comes from, again, some stuff when we're going to dig a little deeper of knowing the surface level of game design, but not the deeper levels of game design. Yes, you took the proficiency bonus numbers from level 1 to 9 and put them as your proficiency bonus numbers. Yes, you do also use the advantage disadvantage system. That alone is not the skeleton of D&D 5th edition. That is like saying, because my game has a mechanic called feats and it uses a D20 and has a skill point system, it automatically is the skeleton of D&D 3rd edition or D&D 3.5. Yes, those are present in there, but there's a lot more to design and how things interact than that. Especially when we go in deeper, because some of the things that are different, I like. Some of them are incredibly lacking. And this is when we're going to get into the second biggest problem with this book is it feels like OSR is don't actually include it in your game. A big example of this is monsters for 5 Torches Deep. They have 2 pages of tables of how to make your own monsters. And that's cool. If you're the kind of GM who wants to make your own monsters, great. If you are confident enough in the hobby already, and you are well versed in the hobby enough to be making all your monsters on the fly from scratch, you're probably not looking for a game that also labels itself as D&D 5th edition OSR. First of all, there's way more OSR options that are probably going to fit your style better than this. And then at the same time, there's 2 pages dedicated to making your own, and then a whole 3rd page, which is basically saying, oh, buy the D&D 5th edition monster manuals, and these are the things you need to change because we're not including monsters. Now, in full honesty, they do include monsters. They include 6, and it's not even a wide enough breadth to be usable incomplete without making your own monsters. It just isn't. They are examples, and this isn't, oh, it's examples that can function as a mini bestiary. No, it's just, here's how they'll look when you finish this process. Because I'm going to pull them up. They have a jungle cat. Okay, yeah, I can use that. It's pretty niche, though. An orc raider. Yes, that is a versatile, early GMs, even advanced GMs, they will be using that. I don't know why it had to be an orc raider when it could just be an orc. Then they have a brigand. Also, could have just been a bandit for more novice GMs. There's no difference other than it's 3 hit dice. So yeah, it being a bandit doesn't make a lot of sense. Then they have a hobgoblin, but they don't have goblins. They have an occultist, and they have a stone drake. All of these, with the exception of the hobgoblin, scream, it's the same, but it has a twist. And none of them are unified enough to really work together. You have hobgoblins without goblins. So if you have someone new coming in, and yes, we do have to look at books, especially if you're advertising to the system that's all about bringing in new people. You got to look at it from new people's perspective. Here's a hobgoblin, but we don't give an example of a goblin. That's weird. And it's little things like that. There's also wording in this in how the subclasses work. Yes, because every class has a subclass. No, every class having a subclass is not something I'm going to count on the list of it being 5th edition. Not new to 5th edition, not unique to 5th edition, and really, other than it shows up at level 3, it has nothing to do with 5th edition. And by the way, while everyone talks about how all the classes kind of get their subclass at level 3, only about a third do. Some get it at level 1, some level 2, some level 3. This screams someone who knows 5th edition secondhand and is going, oh, well, that's like 5th edition, so it works. Also, the subclasses, a lot of them are what most people would consider classes. I'm not going to say that's a bad thing. The fact that cleric, paladin, and druid are all technically the same class, and each of those are subclasses as its own OSR thing is kind of cool, kind of unique. But at the same time, if you're going in saying it has the skeleton of D&D 5th edition, that makes no sense. It's not fully comprehending if you're going to say you're using the design of one game to actually use that game's design. If you're using your own design, then stand on your own laurels and use your own design. Don't do it and then claim it's something else. As I said earlier, the levels also all only go up to level 9. That's a good thing. That's, first of all, saying that's OSR is not true. OSR has always gone into super high levels, even from BX and AD&D and all of those. But capping the power curve is true. So it's kind of a mixed bag there, and that's okay. Each level, the classes are going to be getting a lot less abilities and widgets, and all the abilities and spells and everything are written much more simply. Spells are just like a single short line. In some level, this cleans things up, makes it easier to understand, but in others, it's basically saying the spell just happens, but no comprehension of what the effect and stuff is. Some people feel that is OSR. I'm not going to knock them for that, but at the same time, even the oldest editions of D&D actually went into more depth of what a spell is. This feels very much like my first dungeon delve game, but it's also not super well put together. The mechanics are simplified to the point that they do feel like your first game, but the book is written at a point where it very much assumes you already know what you're doing. So it can't be your first game. It won't function well as your first game unless you have somebody already there to help you, at which point, while it being your first game could help, it's not as necessary. And again, I don't like saying like meanly negative things, but this whole book, once I got through to the end, 90% of it felt unnecessary. But with that, I do want to get into the good things. I led with the negative. I usually lead with the positive, but I led with the negative because of the claiming of using a system they're not, very much feeling like they're riding the coattails. I feel like if you're only watching like 5 minutes of the review, you need to know this because it's disingenuous and it's the first thing that needs to be known. But now we can get into the good stuff. As I said, their choices for the subclasses I actually really like. The cleric, the paladin, and the druid are all actually the zealot. And the zealot is your wisdom caster. They are your faith caster. You have a mage, which is where you get wizard and sorcerer, and I think warlock. Yeah, where you get wizard, sorcerer, and warlock. There's only 2 casting classes, and the rest are in subclasses. I actually really love that for this. I love the fact that the bard is actually just a subclass of the thief. I think that works really well if you're trying to limit your classes, because at the end of the day, the bard's a skill monkey and the thief is a skill monkey. But at the same time, it's assassin, bard, rogue. I feel like you only called it the thief because it's OSR and that's what the original roguey class was called. You could have easily called this the journeyman because you're leaning on the fact that it's skills, not leaning on the fact that they're actually thieves. And yes, they do all get stealth, but other than that, there's nothing in the core class that makes him a thief. You made the rogue that, and then the real high damage, the killy guy is the assassin, and the even more skill type character of a broad category is the bard, but they're all thieves. No, man, come on. Like, a second pass really would have helped there. Another thing I actually like is the fact that not only is it you roll for stats, but the race you pick actually determines how you roll for stats, which I think is actually a beautiful bridge between the oldest of OSR, old school. What you roll determines what races you can take, compared to the newer games where you roll, you get to optimize everything and then take a race, which just makes you even better. And yeah, just a couple editions back, it was better at some things, worse at others, but you had your rolls at the forefront. Now, you get to pick race first, which means race then determines what you roll. And basically what that does is the things that they should be good at, they automatically get a 13 in. The things that might, basically everything that they're not automatically good at, they roll 2d6 plus 3. You're more likely to be way less proficient in the things you're really good at, except humans. Humans get to roll 3d6 for everything. They don't get any stat that's automatically a 13, but they're technically the only ones that can end up above a 15 in any stat starting out. Awesome. But it's also more of a gamble. Now, you do also increase your attributes at certain levels. Another thing I actually really, really like is the fact that casters don't have spell slots. This is closer in a lot of ways to like Dungeon Crawl Classics. They get spells they know based on their level. You actually make a check. Now, the type of check you make is based on the type of caster, whether it's intelligence or wisdom. It's a 10 plus the spell level. If you succeed, you cast the spell. If you fail, you roll on a mishap table, which makes magic dangerous. I really like this. It's a really simple spell system. I kind of love this. And I've loved other games that have used this. Again, it's not super new. This also is not nearly as harsh as Dungeon Crawl Classics roll to cast system. Mainly, if you fail to cast, you don't automatically forget the spell. It's just something weird happens and you move on and you can still cast. It makes casters actually much, much more powerful. So between the weird layout options, just, in my opinion, kind of just lying about how much 5th edition is in this game to sell books, and the almost joke of what they're doing for monsters, where how much they want you to do yourself, which again, all for doing myself, but I'm going to do myself and give me examples if I want to be lazy. If I'm buying this and this is a full book and a full game, this isn't just the player's handbook, this isn't just the guide, this is supposed to be the entire game. And it's not the entire game. You got to make like a third of the game. There's not enough examples to even have an example adventure to go ahead of time, or enough monsters where you can throw something together real quick to get a feel for the game. No, I have to invest deep enough into it to make my own custom monsters, scenarios, traps, all of it has to be custom made before I can even try the game to see if I like it. And if I'm someone who didn't get the mechanics right away and made them wrong, I'm not going to know because there's not enough examples in the game. Now at the very end, this is going to be, again, opinion, but it's $10 for the PDF. I'm not even going to talk about the print because the PDF's actually done in a layout. It's designed for screens. The book also prints this way. I've seen prints of the book, but it's designed to be picked up as a PDF. It's a $10 PDF. Here's the thing. Well, $10 is cheap if you're comparing it to Dungeons and Dragons. If you're going into the OSR market and comparing it to Dungeons and Dragons alternatives in the OSR market, I can get way better designed games with a lot more support and a lot more experience behind them for cheaper. If it's specifically that I want the OSR feel from D&D 5th edition, A, I think I've very much established this isn't D&D 5th edition, but B, Wizards of the Coast provides that for free. It's called the basic rules. And if you think the power curve gets too high, don't let anyone go above level 9, just like this. That's a tweet amount of material. You could tweet out, hey, just don't go above level 9. The class selection is way slimmer. It's the simplest of classes. The spell list is much smaller. It's the most iconic, easier to remember spells, and they come with a full bestiary and all the magic items and everything you need. The DMG for D&D 5th edition has even more rules options if you want to delve in and make it even more OSR. I've done videos about how to make 5th edition feel like BX, and it can be done with that system for free, or if you want to really delve into it, the DMG. Which, yeah, it's going to be like $25, but you're going to have it. And if you end up going down that road, because again, if you're marketing the 5th edition, I'm going to assume there's going to be people who care about 5th edition. If you're going after people who already own Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition, you're in one of two categories. Either they don't like 5th edition, which means telling them to recrack open those books and change everything to fit this half-designed game is not good. Or they already like 5th edition, and if you like 5th edition, it's a better design game to this. If you don't like 5th edition, this ain't gonna give you what you want anyways. So what's the point? Why does this book exist? Basically. So that's it. I've rambled enough. I'm gonna chop this to hell because I hate doing negative reviews, which means I ramble more and I try and talk in circles to put positive spins, and it's really hard to do for this book. But I'll catch you guys next week. Bye.